Thanks very much for staying with us. Time now for Eye on Africa with me, Georgia Cavan-Smith. Tonight, the international outrage following the shooting of several Nigerian protesters in Lagos as part of anti-police brutality protests intensifies. The military says it wasn't involved. Witnesses say otherwise, and that the killings are an example of the lack of discipline that they fear will continue in security forces, even following the disbandment of the notorious Sars squad. Also, as tensions in the run-up to Ivory Coast's election lead to several deaths due to clashes between opponents and supporters of President Alassane Ouattara, our correspondent Sam Bradpeets heads to the town of Daloa, which is one of the main departure points for Ivorian migrants hoping to make it to Europe. Many there say that there simply aren't enough jobs to go round. And every year, a women's football tournament is held in one part of Algeria in a bid to bring the community together and highlight the importance of women claiming public space in the traditional society. But first, there's international condemnation of the shooting of anti-police demonstrators in Lagos on Tuesday night. The military denies having opened fire, but witnesses say that up to 12 people were killed in the area of Lekki. The UN and EU have called for an end to police brutality in Nigeria. In South Africa, hundreds of people marched on the Nigerian embassy in Pretoria on Wednesday in solidarity with those who'd come under fire in Lagos. Rallies were also held in London, where calls rang out to end Sars, the notorious anti-robbery squad that's become synonymous with police abuses in Nigeria, even after it was disbanded last week. Now, it's still not clear how many people were killed in Lekki on Tuesday, but some who were there say the mood had been peaceful before the shots began.
5 minutes after I got there, the next thing, I started hearing gunshots, multiple gunshots, and the big screen that was lighting that area went off.
Shoot! Let them shoot, let them shoot. No problem! No problem! Everyone sit down!
Everybody was in total darkness. So some people were running towards Lekki Phase 1. I had to run for my life. Other people were running for their lives. They died in the process. They got injured in the process.
Well, as unrest spread on Wednesday, a major TV station, TVC, was set on fire in Lagos. Blazes dotted the city throughout the day as the protests continued despite an indefinite curfew. Well, for more on this, we're joined by Sam Olukoya. Sam, so with regard to the shootings on Tuesday night, we heard one of the witnesses give his account there. The military says there weren't any soldiers in Lekki. Witnesses say there were. What do you put this discrepancy in terms of what happened down to? Sam, can you hear me? Sam, can you hear me?
Yep. Yeah, I can hear you.
So the witnesses say that the military was responsible for opening fire. The military says there weren't any soldiers in Lekki. Why do you think we see this conflict in terms of the story of what happened?
Well, it's clear that from the two sides, from the two accounts we've seen on this issue, the accounts from the military, it's the one that is quite questionable, that is not very robust. We saw the videos we've had from eyewitnesses, and the defense the military has made so far is a very weak one. They cut and pasted things they found on the internet concerning what they've done, and all they did was to write fake news. For many, that was a very weak defense. People saw military vehicles, people saw military ammunition, people saw military men wearing uniform. So it's difficult for the military to convince people that they were not involved in this. Moreover, the governor of Lagos State stated clearly that the military were involved, and he will want to know what he will want an investigation to be conducted concerning their conduct, and he will raise this issue with the president. The military, to the best of my knowledge, have not countered what the state government said.
So how much of a problem is this violence going to be for the government?
This definitely is a problem for the government when you have a government presiding over a military that has carried out this very serious issue that is not only in Nigeria that we are talking about this. People all over the world are talking about it. And this government has not deemed it fit to apologize to Nigerians, to tell Nigerians that it will investigate this. All we've seen is silence on the part of the government. So that definitely is a huge political cost for any government at all, given the gravity of what we saw happened barely 24 hours ago.
So this is actually an example of the very indiscipline from security forces that protesters are worried won't change with the disbanding of Sars. How do you think this will affect the protests going forward?
For the protesters, this will show them very clearly that there's a long way to go. In the last 2 weeks that we've seen this protest, the government and the police have consistently assured people that human rights abuses of what we saw at that time 2 weeks ago would not happen. What happened 2 weeks ago was a case of policemen beating up somebody. Now we've seen something far, far worse. Military men shooting at unarmed civilians, protesters, and to cap it off, the military has come to say, no, we didn't do it. Look elsewhere for somebody to blame. This definitely will send a very wrong signal to those in uniform that if you commit this level of atrocity, you are not going to be held accountable. So for those who went out there to protest, they should be prepared to see worse forms of human rights abuses on the part of not just the police, it's important to stress, on the part of uniformed men, the police, the army, the navy, the air force. We've seen in the past years, they've perpetrated serious human rights abuses. And for many Nigerians, it was like this protest will be the watershed.
Sam, unfortunately, I have to stop you there. We've run out of time, but thank you so much for your take on that violence that we saw in Lekki on Tuesday night as part of those ongoing anti-SARS protests in Nigeria. Well, Ivorian officials say that pre-election violence has left at least 7 dead in and around the town of Dabu. The election in the country is going to be held at the end of the month, and ahead of that, we're going to be hearing from our correspondent Sam Bradpeace, who's been heading into communities to speak to voters about the issues that matter the most to them. Tonight, he reports from Daloa, the main departure point for Ivorian migrants desperate to reach Europe. Many living there say that there isn't enough work to go around.
In the 1970s and 80s, Félix Houphouët-Boigny, the first post-independence president of Ivory Coast, encouraged mass immigration into the country to boost the labour supply to the booming cocoa industry. This helped consolidate Ivory Coast as a key economic superpower in Francophone Africa. But walking around the dusty streets of Daloa, it's clear that the fruits of such economic development have not been shared by all. The city of some 300,000 people continues to attract migrants from neighbouring Burkina Faso, Mali and elsewhere, but it's better known as the main departure point for many Ivorians looking to make the dangerous journey north through the Sahara Desert and then the Mediterranean in a desperate bid to reach Europe. It's a journey that people here call the adventure. Ibrahim Doumia is a clothes designer here in Daloa. He made the journey all the way to Libya. Ibrahim, can you explain why did you decide to make this journey?
There are no opportunities here. I wanted to get to France to find work there. That's what I wanted to do.
And with elections approaching, what do you hope will change after the 31st of October?
Well, we hope the new president will build factories here, which would benefit all of us, including the youth.
As one of the most populous cities in Ivory Coast, the Dawa vote is important. Whoever wins the next presidential election will face the challenge of generating enough opportunities for the hundreds of thousands of young Ivorians who enter the labour market every year.
And finally, every year, a women's football tournament is held in one part of Algeria in a bid to bring the community together and highlight the importance of women claiming public space. Laurent Berstecker has more.
Nestled in the Algerian mountains, the teams of the Sahel and Tabouda villages take to the pitch as they meet in the final of a local football tournament meant to empower women.
كيفاش تخدم كاين النظام صغار تفهم تخدم الخدمه بوخام تخدم الخدمه من برا.
In the stands, an enthusiastic and mostly feminine public, some draped in traditional jebba clothing, were spurring on the two teams. The contest, played to the sounds of drums and ululations, was eventually won by the Sahel village on penalties. As the players reveled in their victory, so too did the organizers, visibly proud of the tournament's success.
Casser les tabous. Quoi d'autre? L'esprit sportif. Intégrer la femme dans le sport, ce qui est bien pour sa santé, son moral.
Algerian women have long played a central role in Berber culture. But since the rise of the country's Islamist movement in the 1990s, they've largely been pushed out of the public sphere.
Une très bonne initiative de voir quand même les femmes se réapproprier un espace public dont elles étaient privées pour un bon bout de temps.
The issue of women's rights has recently come under renewed scrutiny in Algeria following the rape and murder of a young woman earlier this month, a crime which sparked widespread outrage and saw thousands of people take to the streets to march against gender inequality.
Thanks for joining us. Do so again. Take care.
Sans pardon, sans pourquoi, your love, voilà le grand amour.
Hello, this is Carla Bruni. Please, let's meet on France 24 so we can talk about my new album.
Encore on France 24 and France24.com.